Mr. Dakshesh Kothari is a tax and financial consultant and the Managing Director and CEO of Ashutosh Financial Services Private Limited, which is an ISO 9001-2015 certified company with prominent presence in the field of financial services. He specializes in the fields of income tax, FEMA, trust laws, estate planning, and foreign tax compliances. On the financial front, he specializes in investment advisory and insurance advisory. He advises companies, trusts, high net worth individuals, and non-resident Indians across the globe on financial and tax and allied laws related matters. He is the director of Ashutosh Rubber Private Limited, which is a nationally acclaimed manufacturer of rubber and TPE products and a group company of Ashutosh Financial Services Private Limited. He is a trustee of various charitable trusts. He has been involved with a number of social service projects of Rotary Club and is a Paul Harris Fellow of Rotary International. He has been presenting analysis on the Union budget since last 15 years and also on various subjects of taxation and finance at various forums addressing doctors, businessmen, industrialists, taxation consultants, chartered accountants, company secretaries, NRI and postgraduate students of diverse branches on subjects related to finance, taxation and estate planning to make our society financially literate. His articles on financial subjects are regularly published in renowned newspapers like the Economic Times, Mint, etc. and also in magazines like Dalal Street. His interview was aired on ET Now as a mutual fund industry expert in the program named Swatantra, which is one of the most acclaimed investor education initiative of our country. He has also addressed a program dedicated to NRI on a leading Gujarati TV channel in Ahmedabad. He is a 360-degree versatile personality in the fields of taxation and finance, which makes him a unique and truly a one-stop solution provider for a wide range of financial and tax-related matters.
The topic today, as Arvindji said and explained, the importance of it. And to add to that, I will add 2-3 things which are very important, that why we should be looking at these topics now at this point of time. I will explain in a little brief, and that will set the stage as to why we should be very focused on these topics of non-resident Indians. What has changed in recent times is that the world has become more and more compliant. Say 5 years back, 10 years back, there used to be NRI investments in India, and the non-residents were fine and cool. They would have an NRO account, NRE account, a resident Indian account, where somewhere some PAN number would be mapped, somewhere PAN number would not be mapped. Life was going on easy. Even the compliance at their end in their own home country was not something which was very much seriously taken. But now, since at least 2-3 years, life has completely changed, and everything across the globe, including India and in their own homeland, it has become quite compliant. So all those people who are facing the non-resident Indians, they have to be updated with certain basic regulations for sure. Then another thing which has come up as quite a challenge for us is that we need to sell India more effectively. If we do not sell India, the Indian economy, the rationale of investing in India, things are not going to work. We have grown up in an environment where we have been told that the Western world is growing at a very low pace, and India and certain other emerging economies are growing at a very fast pace, and which makes a very good case for somebody to invest in India. But since at least a couple of years, things in India have come under a challenge. So we need to really convince our clients about the investment rationale, why they should be investing in India. The other thing what has happened is that the returns of especially the US market in last 5 years have outpaced the Indian markets. Even in the recent times, the return on the US market is much better than what the Indian equity market has been delivering. So we need to be very updated, very clear, very thorough in explaining them that here is a good case for somebody to invest in India. The third and the most important thing which has happened in recent times is that when we were dealing with non-residents, say 5 years, 10 years back, we were dealing with, let me call them a little oldie kind of people in the age group of 50, 60, and they had got an affection towards India. They had got certain allocations. They used to come to India very often. They used to like everything Indian. Now the times have changed. Now the next generation of these non-resident Indians have started taking charge of the financial affairs, and for making any meaningful allocation, they would look into so many things, they would ask so many questions. So with these things, I would start my presentation, wherein what we will be doing is that, as Arvindji said, that we have divided this entire the subject of non-resident Indians and things relating to it into two presentations. The presentation today is in respect of important regulations which are other than income tax, so which is FEMA and RBI related regulations, and the rationale of investing in India, especially in the present times. So that is going to be our subject today, and the one which Arvindji said on 25th will be squarely dedicated on income tax. So today it will be everything other than income tax, and on 25th it will be all income tax. I will be sharing this presentation, so if somebody misses in terms of the things which have been laid down in the presentation, need not worry. I will be sharing with the asset management company, and you can avail that presentation. And this presentation I will be talking in very simple English and at right places in Hindi, explaining certain things, and you can ask me questions absolutely in Hindi, which I am absolutely fine with. So with these words, I will start the presentation proper. So the first part, this presentation I have divided it into two parts. The first part, obviously, that is on the investment regulation, important regulations, and the second part is going to be on the investment rationale. So let us start with the first part. The first and foremost thing which comes up before us to really ascertain and understand is that who is a NRI, and for us, for banking and investment purposes. So because that is our core area, that is what we are all looking forward to. So for these purposes, who is a NRI? And the reason why this becomes a little complex is that in India there are basically three definitions, three laws which mix all these things in the minds of people as to who is basically a resident or a non-resident. Now the first law, which is in respect of investments, banking and everything, is FEMA, and the Reserve Bank of India circulars which are issued on the powers which Reserve Bank gets from the Foreign Exchange Management Act. The other law which defines a non-resident and a resident is the Indian Income Tax Act. So the Income Tax Act has got some different definitions, and the third one is the Citizenship Act. What unfortunately happens for us is, at times we tend to mix up all these things, and that creates complications in the minds of for not just for the investors, for people who are even learned, who are on the advisory side. So what we are going to concentrate today as to who is a NRI will be squarely for banking and investment purposes. Who is a NRI for income tax purposes will keep in store for the 25th, right? So in order to understand who is a NRI, let us understand this definition which has been provided under the Foreign Exchange Management Act FEMA in a converse way. Let us look as to who is a resident in India. A person is a resident in India if he is residing in India for more than 182 days in a financial year, but now this is very important, but does not include a person who has gone out of India for purposes of some employment, some business, vocation, or he has gone out of India with the intention to be outside of India for an uncertain period. So this seems to be a little technical, right? I will explain you in a very simple way. My son was in India, say, from the 1st of March, 1st of April to 25th of January. He was in India, right? So what this definition says is that he was residing in India more than 182 days, and so he is a resident Indian. But the exclusion says that if on 25th he boards a flight and moves out of India with an intention that he will be out of India for an uncertain period or to take up some employment, business or vocation, then the very moment he stepped out of India, he becomes a non-resident under FEMA. So, इसका मतलब ये होता है कि जो भी लोग इंडिया में चाहे कितने दिन भी रहे हुए हो, लेकिन जब भी देश से बाहर ये एम्प्लॉयमेंट, बिजनेस, वोकेशन या फिर अनसर्टन पीरियड के लिए बाहर जाएंगे, तो द वेरी मोमेंट जो बाहर गए तो तभी से वो नॉन रेसिडेंट इंडियन बन जाते हैं बैंकिंग और इन्वेस्टमेंट पर्पसेस के लिए. तो तभी से वो अपने NRO, NRE अकाउंट्स खुलवा सकते हैं, चाहे उनके पास अपना इंडियन पासपोर्ट भले हो, चाहे जिंदगी में कभी पहले इंडिया से बाहर नहीं गए हो, तो भी उसमें कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. As I said, these things are what is to be seen. Now, the other way round, कि किसी के पास US पासपोर्ट हो, ग्रीन कार्ड हो, कुछ भी हो, लेकिन when that person comes to India and takes up any employment, business, vocation, or demonstrates that that person in India is going to be for an uncertain period, the very moment that person came to India, he becomes a resident Indian under FEMA. So मान लो कि मेरे पास ब्रिटिश पासपोर्ट है, सालों से ब्रिटिश पासपोर्ट है, मैं ब्रिटेन में ही रहता हूँ, लेकिन मेरी रिटायरमेंट के लिए मैंने सोचा कि मैं इंडिया चला जाऊँ, कुछ भी इंडिया में सेटल हो जाऊँ. तो द मोमेंट मैं इंडिया में आता हूँ तो मेरा इंटेंशन ये होता है, मैं ऐसा कंडक्ट करता हूँ कि मेरा इंटेंशन इंडिया में अनसर्टन पीरियड के लिए स्टे करना है, या फिर मैंने कोई एम्प्लॉयमेंट, बिजनेस, वोकेशन कुछ टेकअप कर लिया, तो द वेरी मोमेंट आई केम टू इंडिया मैं रेसिडेंट इंडियन बन जाता हूं. तो कोई बोलेगा कि नहीं यार, मेरे पास तो अभी ब्रिटिश पासपोर्ट है, मेरे पास ग्रीन कार्ड है, मेरे पास US सिटीजनशिप है, लेकिन फिर भी जो आप इंडिया में अनसर्टन पीरियड के लिए आ गए हैं, तो फिर आप अपने NRO NRE अकाउंट्स नहीं रख सकते हैं, आप रेसिडेंट इंडियन बन जाते हैं किसी भी और इंडियन की तरह, और आपको रेसिडेंट इंडियन अकाउंट ही रखने हैं. The reason why I am explaining these things in detail is that these are the areas of confusion for so many people. So what is important is not the definition under the Indian Income Tax Act, because it will apply to when we deal with the Income Tax Act. The Citizenship Act is the provisions which would allow somebody to have rights as a citizen and as a right as when you enter into the country, whether you are a citizen, whether you need a visa, you don't need a visa, and all sorts of things. But when it comes to banking and investments, this is what is important. Now, there were so many confusions as to whether our students who are leaving India, they will be called or they will be given a status of a non-resident or a resident. There, the Reserve Bank of India has issued circular specifying that all students going for further studies out of India, the moment they leave India, they would be non-resident Indians. So, students leaving India for further studies can straight away open their NRO NRE accounts, and they should close their resident Indian accounts. We have talked about people who are having Indian passport, leaving, coming, and those kinds of things. Now let us look at people who would say that I have never come to India. Say my friend's son, he is say maybe 15 years old, 23 years old, but he has never come to India, right? And he is born and brought up in the US. So he is a person who is a foreign national. So in respect of those foreign nationals who do not hold Indian passport and who are not covered by the definition and the discussion which I made earlier, तो उसके लिए क्या है? तो उसके लिए है कि if they are overseas citizen of India, and who are overseas citizen of India? He has been a citizen of India on or after 26th of January 1950, eligible to become a citizen of India on 26th January 1950. 26th January 1950 is our Republic Day. So on that day, if somebody was eligible, then he will be considered as an OCI, Overseas Citizen of India. Then he belonged to a territory which became a part of India after 15/8/1947, which would predominantly apply to places like Goa and other places which became a part of India after 1947. Then child, grandchild, great-grandchild of such a citizen. So, child, grandchild or great-grandchild of the person specified in ABC. Then minor child of the persons mentioned in ABCD. Then minor child where both the parents or at least one of the parents is a citizen of India. And most important, that spouses of citizens of India or OCI card holders, even of an absolute foreign origin, will be considered as a OCI. So, if there is some OCI, if there is some citizen of India who has married a foreigner, then that person to whom somebody has married, despite the fact that that person is of foreign origin, that person would also qualify, that foreigner would also qualify to be of the status of an OCI. The important thing is that the marriage should have been registered and should have been subsisting for 2 years. So 2 साल से ज़्यादा से उनकी शादी होनी चाहिए और वो registered होनी चाहिए. But despite all these things, if say somebody is satisfying all these things to become an OCI, but if that person has ever been a citizen of Pakistan or Bangladesh, then that person will not be an OCI. So, if somebody satisfies all these conditions which I said, then that person is an overseas citizen of India. Now, when we are discussing this overseas citizen of India, let me clarify that overseas citizen of India, let me be very straight that it is just a name. India does not grant any dual citizenship to anybody. So this is just a card, or this is just a regulation which will help somebody to establish that this person is a non-resident Indian and he can have those privileges, and somebody, if they are holding a OCI card, they don't need a visa while they are coming to India. So this is what it is. It doesn't give any right to contest election, take government jobs, seek any help from Indian embassy as such directly, which every citizen of a country is entitled to. So overseas citizen of India is just a good name, but it's no dual citizenship. And as I said, somebody who has ever been a citizen of Pakistan or Bangladesh, despite they satisfying all these conditions, they cannot be called overseas citizen of India. Now, to conclude, for banking and investment purposes, non-residents as per FEMA regulations, which I have discussed it at length, for people who are holding Indian passport or Indian citizenship, whatever we say, both mean the same, or a OCI card holder will be considered as a NRI for our banking and investment purposes. Just for the purpose of banking, if somebody is a person of Indian origin, then they can open bank accounts, but the regulations say that if somebody wants to make investments in India, that person, if he is not an Indian citizen, then he should be having a OCI card as well. I am aware that so many places where somebody makes investments, even in financial assets, in immovable assets, the regulations say that that person should be holding a OCI card. But things go on and the people don't ask for OCI card. But as such, the RBI regulations say that if somebody wants to invest in India in financial assets and even in immovable assets, then the provision says that you have to have a OCI card if you are not a citizen of India or you are holding a foreign passport. So this is just a summary of what all kinds of eligible persons, what they can do for banking and portfolio investments. Citizen of India and OCI card holder are allowed to do so. Then for bank accounts, citizen of India obviously, OCI card, and even a PIO, person of Indian origin. So he is eligible to become an OCI, but he doesn't hold an OCI card. Still, he can open a bank account. When it comes to immovable property, either somebody is a citizen of India or is an OCI card holder. And below that, I have mentioned certain countries where doing those activities which I have just mentioned are regulated in the sense that either it is with government approval or with RBI approval. We should definitely keep these things in mind, because the persons or citizens of these countries are restricted from doing these activities like investments, banking, and investments in immovable property. So I think with this I have tried to clear that who is basically a non-resident Indian, which is very important for us for banking and investment purposes. Now let us look as to what are the banking regulations for non-resident Indians. So when it comes to banking, the first and foremost thing is that a non-resident Indian is not allowed to keep resident Indian savings account. We come across to so many people who are holding NRO, NRE and resident Indian accounts simultaneously, which is not good, which is not in sync with the regulations and in sync with the law. So either the resident Indian account should be closed or it should be converted or redesignated as a NRO account. जब भी किसी के पास रेसिडेंट इंडियन अकाउंट है और वो नॉन रेसिडेंट है, तो बैंक को हमको बोलना है कि आइदर आप यही अकाउंट को रीडेजिग्नेट कर दीजिए और इसको NRO अकाउंट का स्टेटस दे दीजिए। वो बोले कि नहीं, हमारे लिए, हमारे सिस्टम्स के लिए पॉसिबल नहीं है, तो ठीक है, वो जो अकाउंट उसको बंद कर देना है और वो जो भी अमाउंट है जो रेसिडेंट इंडियन अकाउंट में है उस अमाउंट को हमको ट्रांसफ़र कर देनी है NRO अकाउंट में, क्योंकि वही जगह से हमको हमारे सभी ट्रांजैक्शंस जो पहले हम रेसिडेंट इंडियन अकाउंट में से करते थे वो अब NRO अकाउंट में से करने हैं और कर सकते हैं। पूरी छूट से, पूरी ईज और कंफर्ट से हम लोग कर सकते हैं। तो what all accounts are the ones which non-resident Indians can operate? One is an NRO account, NRE account, FCNR account and a RFC account. So in very brief but in a crisp manner, I will talk and put forward as to what are the features of an NRO account. A NRO account is a non-resident ordinary account, is a non-repatriable rupee account. माने उसके पैसे जो नॉन रेसिडेंट ऑर्डिनरी अकाउंट NRO अकाउंट में है वो एज सच NRE में भी नहीं जा सकते और भारत देश के बाहर वो पैसे भेज नहीं सकते। उसका बेसिक रेगुलेशन ये बोलता है, उसमें क्या चेंजेस हो सकते हैं अलग से रेगुलेशन में वो मैं आपको बताऊंगा, लेकिन prima facie, on the face of it, this is an account where the funds lying in this account are non-repatriable. वो funds को हम भारत के बाहर भेज नहीं सकते हैं। Any person, as I said, becomes a resident, from a resident to a non-resident, then they should inform the bank and the resident account or the balances of the resident account should be transferred or the account should be redesignated as an NRO account. Credits and debits in this account are of non-repatriable funds. What all credits which are in the nature of being non-repatriable, they have to be credited in this account. Debits for even non-repatriable payments can be made out of this account. The interest in this account is taxable and hence it will be subjected to tax deduction at source as well. This account can be opened in joint account format, and a resident can be a person who is a joint account holder. So if I am a non-resident, I have a NRO account, my friend who is just a resident can be a joint account holder along with me. Loans can be availed in Indian rupees against this account. Then let us go to the next account, which is a NRE account. The NRE account, the balances should come by way of remittances or transfer from other NRE or FCNR account. NRE account की जो भी बैलेंस है इधर बाहर से माने अब्रॉड से रेमिटेंस के तौर पे आनी चाहिए या फिर और कोई NRE अकाउंट या फॉरेन करेंसी नॉन रेजिडेंट अकाउंट में से वो ट्रांसफर के तौर पे आनी चाहिए। उसके पैसे एज सच वो NRO अकाउंट से NRE अकाउंट में पैसे नहीं डाल सकते। जो बैलेंसेस है इस अकाउंट में वो रूपी में ही होल्ड होती है, लेकिन वो रेमिटेंस वो रिपैट्रिएबल असेट है। तो माने जो रूपी में है NRE में है तो वो डॉलर्स में पाउंड्स में कन्वर्ट करके हम बाहर ले जा सकते हैं या फिर दूसरे NRE अकाउंट में ट्रांसफर भी कर सकते हैं। Foreign exchange can be credited by the NRI himself. Non-resident Indian India आता है तो he can credit, deposit foreign exchange in that account. The income from this account is completely tax free. Howsoever big or howsoever large the amount of interest that you might be receiving, then it is completely, absolutely tax free. Loans can be availed against this account in Indian rupees, and these accounts also can be held in a joint format, but these accounts can be held jointly only with resident relatives. And the one definition which applies to who is a relative is the one which is under the Companies Act. So all these relationships are considered as relatives under FEMA, So all these relationships, people can be joint holders in this account. Then comes the foreign currency non-resident account. This account is an account which is not a rupee account and as such it is a fixed deposit account. So here the balances can be in specified foreign currencies. So पैसे यहाँ ही इंडिया में ही रहेंगे, अपनी इंडियन बैंक्स में ही रहेंगे, लेकिन किसी को ऐसे लगता है कि मुझे रूपी में पैसे नहीं रखने हैं, मुझे तो यूएस डॉलर में रखने हैं, पाउंड स्टर्लिंग में रखने हैं, जापानीज येन में रखने हैं, और या फिर कई स्पेसिफाइड करेंसीज है उसमें मुझको ये पैसे रखने हैं, तो वही अपनी इंडिया की बैंक, लेकिन वो पैसे, वो डिपॉजिट वो FCNR अकाउंट में फॉरेन करेंसी में इंडिया में ही रख सकता है. तो दैट इज बेसिकली द पर्पस ऑफ अ फॉरेन करेंसी नॉन रेजिडेंट अकाउंट. द इंटरेस्ट विच विल बी paid to the depositor will be the one which is in respect of those currencies. So Japanese yen में maybe zero-ish interest होगा. When it comes to US dollars, it would be around 1%, and pound sterling it would be something different, because those investments are, or those deposits are in specified foreign currencies. NRE, from the NRE account and vice versa, back and forth, monies can be transferred to the FCNR and back and forth, as I said. The interest from this account is completely tax-free under the Indian Income Tax Act, and you can avail loans even in specified foreign currency from these against the balances of these accounts. Here also a resident relative can be a joint holder. Then the fourth kind of account is an account which is a resident foreign currency account. So this is an account which can be maintained by returning Indians. So if somebody is returning to India and if they wish that I want to keep my money in convertible foreign exchange, so they can hold these monies for an indefinite period. आज मैं यूएस में था, सालों से मैं इंडिया आ जाता हूँ, इंडिया शिफ्ट होता हूँ, तो मैं रेसिडेंट फॉरेन करेंसी अकाउंट में जब तक चाहूँ, ऐसा नहीं कि 2 साल ही रखते हैं, 3 साल ही रख सकते हैं, मैं जब तक चाहूँ मैं ये पैसे RFC अकाउंट में रख सकता हूँ और वो कन्वर्टिबल फॉरेन एक्सचेंज में भी रख सकता हूँ. तो this interest in respect of this RFC account will be exempted from income tax till the time I am holding R but not OR status. For a non-resident status under the Indian Income Tax Act, it is absolutely exempted. Then even when I come to India and my status, maybe it becomes a resident but not ordinary resident, till the time I am holding that status, the interest in this account will be exempt. आपको naturally question होगा कि ये non-resident status under the Indian Income Tax and non-resident but not ordinary resident, ये सब चीज़ें क्या है, तो उसके लिए थोड़ा आपको सब्र करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि ये भी एक थोड़ा पेचीदा टॉपिक है, तो उसको हम डिस्कस करेंगे 25th को. अभी ये यहाँ तक ही रखते हैं कि this is the way the taxability in respect of this account would operate. Loans are not available against this account, and credits of foreign exchange assets, NRE FCNR account balances can be credited. So माने पहले जो पैसे अब्रॉड थे, फॉरेन करेंसी में थे, या NRE अकाउंट में थे, या FCNR अकाउंट में थे, तो वही पैसे हम RFC अकाउंट में इंडिया में रख सकते हैं और फॉरेन एक्सचेंज में रख सकते हैं, डिस्पाइट द फैक्ट दैट नाउ आई हैव बिकम अ रेसिडेंट इंडियन. This is just a gist as to who can open what kind of account. This could be useful for somebody at a later date for reference. This is just a tabular presentation. Uske baad, this is once again a tabular presentation and a distinction as to what are the differences between a NRE, NRO and FCNR account. I have talked enough in respect of all these 3 accounts. This is just a tabular presentation, a graphical presentation, and you can refer it at your ease and comfort. You can keep this presentation for you for reference. So many of the people, they can have a glance as to what can be done and what cannot be done under the regulations for non-resident Indians. These are different counts on which all these three accounts have been distinguished, which is currency, how you can open, whether a power of attorney can work, and all those kinds of things, permissible credits, permissible debits, income tax related status, fund transfer, repatriation, and finally this account is suited best for whom. So even that has been mentioned. So you can refer it at your ease and comfort. Now we will go to one of the most important sections of our part 1. Still I am in part 1. So part 1 is all. It is about the regulations other than income tax. So this is a very important regulation or a benefit which has been given, which so many of the non-residents and their advisors, they do not know. Everybody should take a benefit of this regulation. The regulation is that you can transfer funds from an NRO account to an NRE account. As I said, that an NRO account is as such a non-repatriable account. But even from this non-repatriable account, you can transfer funds to a non-resident external account or repatriate these funds abroad. So whenever I was talking about the NRO account, I said that this account, the funds are non-repatriable. But the government of India has been kind enough. They have said that we have got a lot of foreign exchange with us. We don't mind that legally compliant if you are in respect of your NRO account balances, and you have paid all your tax dues in respect of the balances which has accrued in the NRO account, then you can very well take that money to the extent of $1 million per person per year from NRO to NRE or out of India. So I have, say, maybe disposed of a real estate, a plot of land. I had got my balances in the resident Indian account, which were lawfully acquired. So I was working somewhere, I was depositing my salary, now I am going abroad. So my balances are there in my account. Say I received some money out of sale of some immovable property. So those monies will as such go to an NRO account. But if I am paying my tax dues in respect of those balances, which I would obviously would like to do and I would pay, and I follow a simple procedure which is not like that you need to get an approval from anybody. It's, as I said, a procedure, form 15 CACB as the case may be, uploading it on the site of the income tax, informing the bank, and the monies would get transferred from the NRO account or out of India. One thing which somebody should keep in mind is that when these remittances are made, then if they are made in one or more installments, it should be to the same bank or the authorized dealer. Banks are called authorized dealers under FEMA and the RBI regulation. So whenever you come across that authorized dealer, they are basically the banks who deal with you. So what is very important is that now we can transfer the balances of the NRO account to the NRE account. So now let us look at as to what are the benefits of transferring these funds. The benefits of transferring these funds are the interest in a NRE account is completely tax free. Because it is tax free, there will be no TDS. So if I have got deposits, fixed deposits, balances in the savings bank account, which is an NRO account, I will be liable to tax. At the same time, it will be subjected to TDS. So what I can do is that I can transfer these monies to the NRE account and save on income tax straight away. Then the balances of the NRE account are fully repatriable. So I am parking my money in an account which is repatriable at all times. Then the repatriation can be done at ease and comfort whenever maybe the foreign exchange rate is maybe favorable to me, but there I have not to wait for anything because my monies are already in a repatriable account. Then one of the most important things which we tell to our clients is that this regulation of allowing a transfer of $1 million per person per year, it is just a relaxation given to NRI, and government is not under an obligation as such to allow that repatriation. So if I have transferred from the NRE to the NRO to the NRE account today, then my funds are sitting in an NRE account. So tomorrow if there is some change in the regulation for some reason, then I am not impacted. My monies are still in a repatriable account, and allowing transfer from monies from NRE account is an obligation to the government. The non-resident Indians are lawfully entitled to get their monies transferred from a NRE account outside of India. So there, as I said, without any formalities, if the monies are sitting in an NRE account, they can fly out of India any time whenever it is required. Now, does this $1 million which I am talking of, as we are on the subject of transfer and repatriation of funds, I would like to draw your attention that in respect of residential properties which are acquired out of NRE account balances or out of remittances, then without even this $1 million, to the extent of 2 properties which have been acquired from these amounts, they can be remitted. So whatever be the amount when I dispose of 2 properties which were acquired from NRE account balances or out of remittances, those monies can be sent out of India without even the benefit of this circular or this regulation or direction which I am talking of in respect of $1 million. Now, when it comes to investment and banking, one of the things which we have to deal with is power of attorney. I have got some things to share with you, to talk with you on the power of attorney aspect. The power of attorney, the way it should be worded is that these are some common flaws that we see in a power of attorney, that these things were missing when that power of attorney was executed. So we should not miss out on these things, these powers in the power of attorney. The power of attorney might be giving so many powers, yes, but these powers should not be missed at. The first thing being to operate a demat account, to receive money in a government saving scheme, because they at times require a specific mention that whether the power of attorney is entitled to carry out the transactions in respect of the government saving schemes, where non-residents are allowed to invest at times, and if not allowed to invest, they can retain their investments and withdraw at a later date. So in order to carry out those transactions, this power should be available for a power of attorney. Then to carry out affairs of the Hindu undivided family, where non-resident Indian is a karta. So what happens is that if, say, I have my Hindu undivided family, so if I become a non-resident Indian, then there would be balances, investments and so many affairs in respect of my Hindu undivided family. So when I am giving my power of attorney to somebody, I should mention that he will be able, that power of attorney person would be able to act on behalf of me as a karta as well. Then he should be able to take care of the affairs of a proprietorship or a partnership concern. Then he should be able to take care of the functions as a director of the company. He should be able to accept claims of a will or make claims under a will. No? So this is also important. Then we should be mentioning in particular that he should be allowed, the power of attorney is entitled or is empowered to close account, even withdraw deposits before maturity. At times some banks might not allow it, but if there is the power, then the power of attorney can definitely argue it out before the bank that I have got a specific power to do it so. Then this is something which is quite important, that when it comes to movable properties, that power of attorney can be notarized in India or abroad, and it has to be stamped as per the local stamp act. In Gujarat, the power of attorney needs to be stamped with a 300 rupee stamp paper, and as I said, that it can be executed outside of India, and it has to be notarized in that country or in India, wherever it is comfortable. But this would work only in respect of movable assets. When it comes to immovable assets, the provisions, I am not exactly aware what Maharashtra or maybe a Chhattisgarh or a Rajasthan would be having in terms of its regulation, but Gujarat I would share, and at times there are similar regulation existent in different states. Gujarat says that any power of attorney in respect which purports, which allows a transfer of any immovable property, it has to be registered with the respective registrar. So if I am holding a property in a particular jurisdiction of a particular registrar, then my power of attorney should be registered there. Then if say somebody says that I cannot come to India, then the giver of power of attorney and maybe even the receiver of power of attorney should sign before the Indian embassy in that respective country, and they will put their stamp and seal that these people have given this power of in respect of immovable property, and they have signed before us in our embassy. Then that power of attorney can come to India, and we need to submit to our respective registrar where that property is situated, and after due verification with the local collector office, they will say, okay, this is a valid power of attorney. Then if this power of attorney is given to persons, I am absolutely talking in respect of immovable assets. Movable, it is very clear and simple, life is very simple. Immovable, if Gujarat says that if that power of attorney is given to anybody who is a non-relative, then that power of attorney should be stamped equivalent to as if it was a transfer. But if it is to close relatives, then, and close relatives have been defined under the local law, those close relatives, it will be only on 300 rupees. Our advice is that please do not mention in the power of attorney that that person is allowed to collect consideration and give possession. If these two powers are there, then even if it is a power of attorney given to a close relative, the registrar might say that it has to be stamped at the prevailing market value of the property, not just that 300 rupees or something, which applies in case of close relatives. A power of attorney holder can make payments, certain payments from their NRE or an NRO account. It can make payments and investments. It can remit funds outside of India from that account only to the account holder, nobody else. So I am a power of attorney holder in respect of a particular account. I can only remit funds to the account holder's account abroad, not to nobody else. Then one of the most important things, and people at times miss out, is that I cannot, if I am a power of attorney holder of a non-resident, I cannot make payment by way of a gift. गिफ्ट के लिए हम चेक ड्रॉ नहीं कर सकते हैं जिसमें पावर ऑफ अटर्नी की साइन हो किसी रेसिडेंट को. माने मेरा दोस्त है, उसका पावर ऑफ अटर्नी होल्डर हूँ, मेरे पास पावर ऑफ अटर्नी है, तो उसके स्ट्रेंथ पे मैं किसी को भी वो बोलेगा वहाँ से कि भाई नहीं, उसको 2 लाख रुपए की गिफ्ट दे दो, मेरे फादर इन लॉ है या मेरे फादर है, तो वो भी मैं साइन करके आई एम नॉट एम्पावर्ड. From an NRO account, I can transfer money to only other, I cannot transfer to other NRO account. From an NRE account, I cannot transfer to other NRE account. So these are the restrictions when a power of attorney is operating a bank account, and this should be kept in mind. Now, one more topic which comes, which is very common when people are confused, is about PPF and NRI. Somebody who was a resident Indian has opened a PPF account. They can hold a PPF account, but they cannot open a new PPF account. Whatever balances are there, you can in the account already opened, you can hold it. You can make even fresh contributions in the same account, but on maturity that account has to be closed, and thereafter on maturity it cannot be renewed. On maturity, whatever are the proceeds of maturity, it will get credited to the NRO account. As we all know that the income of the PPF account in India is completely tax free, but these incomes, despite the fact that they are tax free in India, they would be taxable in respective foreign country, and whatever were the changes that non-resident Indians के सभी accounts बंद कर देने हैं PPF के, that was a regulation which I have mentioned was issued, but it has been withdrawn. So now whatever I have said and explained is something which is operative as the present position of law. Another question which comes up is that Aadhaar and NRI. Aadhaar is something which is not required for a non-resident Indian. In fact, somebody who is not in India for more than 182 days or more in the preceding 12 months, they cannot avail a Aadhaar card. वो आधार कार्ड के लिए अप्लाई ही नहीं कर सकते हैं. और and somebody, if he does not hold an Aadhaar card and he is a non-resident, is no problem, then he need not map it with the PAN. But if he has got an Aadhaar card, then he should definitely map it or link it with the PAN. And all the non-resident Indians or persons of Indian origin, they are exempted or they are not entitled to have an Aadhaar card, and it cannot be something which is a must for any verification or any transaction, which might be in case of resident Indians. Then we'll talk of in a few seconds about the cash carrying limits of in foreign currency. When a non-resident Indian, or for that matter any person who comes to India, as such there are no limits which are specified that how much foreign exchange that person can carry. But the regulation requires that if I am holding or if I am carrying more than 5,000 US dollars along with me when I come to India, then I need to declare it to the customs authorities and fill up a currency declaration form. And whatever are the foreign exchange which I have bought to India, it can be, if I am a non-resident Indian, then it can be credited to my NRO or NRE account by the non-resident himself. So in sum and substance, 5,000 US dollars से कम फॉरेन एक्सचेंज कोई नॉन रेसिडेंट जब इंडिया में आता है और वो उसके साथ लाता है, तो उसको करेंसी डिक्लेरेशन फॉर्म या कोई भी फॉर्मेलिटीज़ करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. वो 5,000 डॉलर इंडिया में उनके बैंक अकाउंट में पर पर्सन वो भर सकता है और वो पैसे से कुछ भी कर सकता है, इन्वेस्टमेंट कर सकता है, किसी को गिफ्ट दे सकता है, कुछ भी कर सकता है. Then we are coming to the part 2 of the presentation, which is squarely based on what is the investment rationale for NRIs in present times. The reasons I have said that this is very important, that we have to make a case as to there is some good reason for you to invest in India. For a NRI, the entire world is open for investment for them. Now we have to build a case, as I said, as to there is some good reason why you should be investing in India. the moment we say that they should be investing in India, and especially in present times, the first and foremost thing which comes up in everybody's mind is the impact of COVID on India, because that is just, it's not an health related issue, it is something which is going to shape up the way the entire economy and the economic life in times to come is going to shape up. The good part as far as India, there is nothing good about COVID obviously, but we can be a little satisfied that the death rate in India, with the grace of God and for whatever actions which have been taken or what not, they are in limits which are a little better than so many of the developed economies. So maybe cases are so many, we all know, but with the grace of God, the number of deaths in India are quite limited, looking to, as I said, the number of cases and the overall population. So that could be a silver lining in this absolute gloomy environment prevailing across the globe. And this is, as I said, also going to impact on the economic side. Then the impact on COVID is limited, or rather high on urban India and lower on Bharat. By Bharat, I would mean the semi-urban and the rural India. There the impact is comparatively limited, and in recent times for so many of the corporates, the rural India or the semi-urban India has been the growth drivers, for the reason that government has been spending a lot of money on these parts of the country. Moreover, most important, since last say maybe 15 days or so, that there have been very good monsoon in these areas. The agricultural activities obviously, and a lot of industrial activities, big time plants are operative in this semi-urban or rural areas. So this makes a case where the impact of COVID on India is comparatively limited vis-a-vis the world. Then what is our share? People say that the global trade would get disrupted. What is the share of India in global trade? Is according to some statistics, it's just 2% plus, and that of China is 17%. So our economy is more a local driven economy or a domestic driven economy, and the consumption which India does is which is akin to a large middle class, the way they would consume basic necessities, and ostentatious expenditure is quite on the low side. So the demand would not fall so very substantially when it comes to the way the economy will shape up in the times to come. And an important thing which we all know, and especially all the financial advisors who are listening to me would know, is that the way the commodity prices have moved. And the statistics say that our annual crude bill was $101 billion US dollars in the last year, and it is, and to the extent of 85% of our crude imports we were dependent. So this is one more reason which we should talk to an NRI when it comes to advantage India. Now the interest rates in India are comparable to the global peers. People, non-residents would say us that you guys are very uncompetitive, and manufacturing or meaningful businesses, meaningful investments would not come for the reason that your interest rates are very high. Now our interest rates are quite comparable to our peers, maybe a China or maybe an Indonesia or similar kind of economies. Then as I talked, the repo rate, which is the benchmark rate which determines the rates of interest in the economy, is on a continuous decline. So this gives a signal as to the way the central bank and the country, or the decision makers in the country, are thinking. Then despite COVID and everything, all the challenges that we are facing, the forex reserves in India are at a very healthy position and getting better. One would think as to why I'm talking about forex reserves. This is something which gives comfort to the non-resident that the monies which I have invested in India, if I want to remit out of India at a later date, here is a country which is quite comfortable insofar as the forex reserves are concerned. Then there are talks which are going on for several reasons, for global reasons, for Indian reasons, that there is going to be a shift of manufacturing dependence from China to India for so many reasons which we all know in detail. And there are countries and there are companies who are taking interest locally, globally of starting manufacturing in India. So that is going to propel India's growth and will allow Indian companies who are constituents on the stock market, on the investment side, to do better in times to come. Labor laws by some governments have been relaxed, and especially for new manufacturing. Infrastructural advantage have been provided. So these are the changes which we can definitely talk to non-residents. And one of the most important things which is going to be on the Indian side is that the changes in the taxation which has been impacted way back in October 2000 from the 1st of October 2019, which is that if I am starting new manufacturing, then the rate of tax for a corporate structure is only 15%, and plus surcharge it ends up at 17.5%, where when I compare it with the global peers who are into these manufacturing, who could be our competitors in manufacturing, we are placed at a very advantageous level, and this can propel a lot of investments in India when it comes to manufacturing. Then we have to be transparent about the way the Indian stock markets have performed in last 1 year. As I said at the outset, that the Western market, especially the US market, has done phenomenally well in last 1 year and even last 5 years. But the fact remains that we are amongst the other markets which are on the developing markets, and our performance since last little time has also little bounced back. Then the domestic fund flows of investments in India is something which is important for non-residents. You would think that why is it important? The reason is that it would give a certain level of stability when it comes to the stock market in general. There have been cases in global in so many countries where if the foreign institutional investors, they pull out money, then straight away the market collapses. Here the statistics which I have just put forward is that it is FII versus DII. The domestic institutions have been buyers at all points of time, and even in this year till the 30th of June, FIIs have been net sellers, but the DIIs have been a counterbalancing force. So this would give a sense of stability to the non-resident. One of the most important thing which comes to when it comes to investing in India is the depreciation of the local currency, which is being feared by the non-resident always. So here the statistics which I have drawn is that from 2014-15 to 30th of June, the way the the US dollar and rupee equation has moved, it is a depreciation of 3.36% per year on a compounded basis. तो जो इंडिया में कोई भी पैसे इन्वेस्ट कर रहा है उसको भय है कि मेरा जो डॉलर डिनोमिनेटेड इन्वेस्टमेंट में रूपी में कन्वर्ट करता हूँ तो मुझे करेंसी फ्रंट पे लॉस होगा. तो उसके लिए उसको सोचना है कि अर्लियर पहले जो भी हुआ था वो हुआ था, इंडिया में 10-12% का इन्फ्लेशन था, लेकिन लास्ट 5-6 ईयर्स में जो एक ट्रेंड है उसमें द एनुअल depreciation is limited to just 3.36%. So if I can get a return which can take care of this 3.36%, then I should be fine with it. And these have been at times a little challenging times since last 1.5 years, and for India, and for since last a couple of months on account of this COVID reasons. So despite that, it is just 3.36% per year. Then what can go wrong? I have been saying all good things about India, but the growth rate in India is something for which India was known can go haywire. Then inflation in India can be in a very different kind of a scenario for whatever demand and supply related issues that have come up. Government finances could be in trouble, and we really don't know how long this COVID-19 is going to continue in a country like India. Maybe people might think that the government has not supported adequately when you compare it with maybe a US, that the government is not rolling out so many SOPs for the industry and the people at large. So that could be an area of concern in the mind of business and industry. If there are, so after the moratorium period ends, and if there are some people or quite a few people and big time accounts who default, then the financial sector might come under a challenge. And if there is a non-intervention, if the government doesn't intervene rightly, then there could be a structural damage. So these are the things which definitely come for discussion when we talk to a non-resident Indian. They are no dumps. They have got a lot of information about India, and they definitely talk, and we need to satisfy them on all these issues. Then this is the last section of my presentation, and this is something which is in my mind very useful when we connect and talk with a non-resident. The reason is that at times non-residents are confused. Property लेनी है, फिक्स डिपॉजिट्स में पैसे डालने हैं, या फिर म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट करने हैं, इंश्योरेंस, बैंक वाला इंश्योरेंस की बात कर रहा है तो वो करना है. सो दे आर कन्फ्यूज्ड. सो what we should give them is a clear direction as to what should be the way a non-resident should be thinking when it comes to investments, and this is with clear logic. Say we should explain them with the concept of real rate of returns, on real rate of return on investments. When it comes to fixed deposits, we know in India that it is say around 5.3%, 5.4% depending upon the bank. But then if we deduct inflation, and these inflation figures I have borrowed it from some a website which is a respected website. There would be pluses and minuses. I do agree to it, and somebody might feel this is not right. But the sum and substance is that the real rate of return, when you subtract it from the fixed deposit return, it is practically similar to what it is in US and UK. So if somebody thinks that I am very fine investing into an NRE, NRO accounts in India, and I am going to make a good money in comparison to my investments in out of India, then they should be clear about the concept of real return. At times people tell me कि दक्षेश भाई आप बात करते हैं ये सब रियल रेट ऑफ रिटर्न की, NRIs बात करते हैं, ऐसे मुझे रिप्लाई करते हैं कि दक्षेश भाई आप बात करते हैं ये सब, लेकिन ये तो हकीकत है कि हमको वहाँ पे माने हमारी US UK में तो ऐसे ही 1% का इंटरेस्ट का रिटर्न मिलता है, और यहाँ हमको ये 5% और 5.5% तो बहुत ही अच्छे लगते हैं, तो मुझे तो NRE अकाउंट में इन्वेस्ट करने हैं. तो मैं उनको ये कॉन्सेप्ट समझाता हूँ तो वो बोलेंगे कि नहीं यार ठीक है, वो तो ठीक है, लेकिन वैसे कुछ भी कर लो, मुझे तो ये 5.5% मिलते हैं. तो उनको ये समझाना है कि हाउ डज इन्फ्लेशन इम्पैक्ट अ फॉरेन करेंसी. द whatever is the inflation difference between two economies is as such the depreciation of that currency. तो जो इन्फ्लेशन का डिफरेंशियल है वो उनको 5.5% दिखेगा, लेकिन जब 5 साल के बाद पैसे वापस ले जाने हैं तब ये जो डिफरेंस है वो उसको ये एक साथ में वो सब भी ये इन्फ्लेशन की इफेक्ट दे देगा, और जब वो पैसे अब्रॉड ले जाएगा या फिर डॉलर से कंपेयर करेगा तब उसको समझ में आ जाएगा पूरा कि ये इन्फ्लेशन ने किस तरीके से काम किया है. तो इन्फ्लेशन डेफिनेटली वर्क्स, and this concept of real rate of return is something which should definitely keep in mind. तो मैंने उसको समअप किया है कि जो NRIs है वो डेवलप्ड इकोनॉमीज में है, US, कनाडा, UK, जर्मनी, ऑस्ट्रेलिया एट्सेट्रा. What should be their investment strategy? So my candid advice to them is that it is not worthwhile investing in debt-based investments in India, because the real rate of return is comparable to the Western world. They should be investing only in India in equity-oriented investments, because then only they can participate in the India growth story and diversify their investment exposure. This thing is very important. If somebody tells me that US is giving me better returns, my simple response is that ठीक है, you are looking at 1 year and 5 years, but if you look at the 5 years before these 5 years, then India was doing much better. And even if you look at 10 years before this last 5 years, the Trump years, the years before the Trump years, then India was doing much better on the equity side. It is only in the recent times, though prudence says that we should diversify across different geographies and India should get your allocation of your kitty. So what are the routes? If somebody wants to invest in India, the simple advice is that they should take help of a seasoned advisors, and through either mutual funds, PMS, or maybe an insurance which has got advantages of taxation and something, but not into direct equities, because direct equities is something which they will not be able to track, and they will end up with a bad taste of advice and bad taste of India and bad taste of Indian investments. So many of the of our friends and relatives and clients who are abroad, they feel that tax compliance in India and in their foreign country where they are, their home country for that matter, it's difficult. But I would say it is not difficult. Anywhere if you are earning money, you have to be tax compliant, and it is not something which is difficult if you have got right kind of investment and tax advisors. Then my candid advice is to all the people who are in respect of these countries, that do not invest in Indian real estate. Real estate investing is not advisable for the reason that we have to manage real estate in India. Dealing, liquidating in India is difficult, and I am quite sure, I have traveled, I talk, interact with so many people in the entire all these Western countries I have mentioned, that they would never ever come back to India structurally, neither them or their children. Every time they will long for India, यार इंडिया में तो बहुत मज़ा आता है, this, that, everything, but they would not come back structurally to India. Despite they be having their apartment or anything, they are not going to come to India. So don't keep real estate, advise them not to have real estate, invest in financial assets, where the clear mandate of investment has to be, it can be liquidated, repatriated, and from remote location, online modes, you can transfer funds even if you can't come into India in these COVID times. And the future generations, I have, as I said, they are net savvy, but they do not like to go into all these formalities, and they don't like all these hassles. I have come across to non-residents who have been told by the next generation that we in India think that, okay, let my parents inherit me some assets. They would say, Dad, clear off your affairs in India. Do whatever you want to do, but I don't want those hassles. So for those people, only if they are financial assets and the formalities are not complex, then only it's going to work well. Now when it comes to NRIs of the geographies other than the ones which I mentioned, which is the non-Western world, which is UAE, Africa, etc., I would advise them that yes, you should have investment in debt-based options in India for security purposes. We don't know what unforeseen eventualities would happen later date. We really don't know. This is a safe destination. India is your home country, motherland. People in the entire Middle East, they don't have, by and large, or rather they don't have the local passport. They are all on work permits, even when they are staying in those countries since a couple of generations, but still they hold Indian passport. So they should have their monies parked in India. Equity oriented assets is a good means of investments, definitely over and above debt for them, because they are participating in the India growth story. Investments, as I said earlier also, for anybody who is an NRI, it has to be through the structured rules, well advised, and for them I would say, yes, you should be holding real estate in India. That should be a guarded residential, shop, office, but definitely not advisable to invest in raw real estate like urban land or agricultural lands, even if they are holding. As such, agricultural lands is something which cannot be acquired by non-resident Indians. They can't buy it, but they can inherit it, or whatever they are holding, they can keep on holding even when they become non-resident Indians. And even for non-residents who are in these geographies, it has to be very clear that all investments, every transaction which they do, it can be liquidated, it can be repatriated, and it should be moved or taken care of from remote locations. Otherwise, they should not do into any kind of transactions which somebody can think of. With these important words and important message from our Prime Minister, which is very relevant, and this is something which in sum and substance which we should talk to all our non-residents, that the reason to invest in India is 4D, which is democracy, demography, demand and decisiveness. So these are clear 4 reasons which makes definitely a good case for anybody to invest in India, or at least diversify, put at least some meaningful allocation to India when they are looking at global investing. With these words, I would clarify that these are all, whatever I have said, are my personal views, and to do any transactions, anything specifically, they should seek proper professional advice. And wherever I have put some statistics, I have put references as to where from I have borrowed these statistics. And thank you so much, and thank you everybody, my friends who have heard me for long on this subject, and thank you so much.